Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Nielsen Networking video. This video is going to be a follow-up to a previous video I created that was titled Essential Linux Commands for Ethical Hackers. If you have not seen that video yet, I highly recommend you check it out first, as it lays out the groundwork for what we're going to be covering today. Now, about this video, we're going to be diving into more advanced Linux commands that every ethical hacker, whether a student or a seasoned professional, should know. Now that said, why don't we just get right to it? All right, tcpdump. I should have mentioned this earlier actually. You do need root access or another privileged account that has permissions to run tcpdump. And you can see this by going there. Now you could always su, get root access and then run it in that shell. You could sudo, of course, but either way, you're gonna need permission, whether it's another account that has permission or root. So that said, let's continue. There's several flags that you can use with tcpdump. I'm just going to show you a few that I use that I think are the most resourceful. And the first one I'm going to show you is the -i flag. Now this is going to tell tcpdump what interface we want to use. So I'm going to tell it ETH0. You could tell it, ETH2, whatever yours happens to be. Or if you don't know it, you can use any. I would suggest you try to find out your interface if needed. You could just do an ifconfig to get it. Otherwise, if you do any, it's literally going to pick up your loopback. It's going to pick up every interface, and it might give you so much traffic where you're already going to get a lot of traffic this way anyway. It just might be overwhelming. So best practice, I would find the interface you want to do. And then, so I need to go ETH0, and then I'm going to use a -n at the end. And what that's telling it is to look up IP addresses, not domain names. Just because it's easier for me, you could leave this off and just do it and you'd get IPs and domain names, but that could be confusing because you might literally be getting both for the same exact target. You could be getting domain and IP, and it's overwhelming and it's a lot of extra traffic. So I try to narrow it down by just using the end. So pick your poison. You like to do it the other way and get a bunch of extra junk, go for it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter here. And then we're going to start to see stuff immediately. That's fine. This isn't anything I'm really worried about here. I want to show you though, I want to split the screen here. And now I want to actually ping like ford.com, right? And as you can see, that starts to pop up and it's only showing it as the IP address. Now, if I go over here, I can actually just ping an IP address. So let's ping Google's DNS servers. We're going to start to see that show up there, right? So that's helpful. I mean, this is kind of a command you'd want to use just for, let's say, like reconnaissance. You're on there. This is your initial look at let's say what's going on in the network. It's not super helpful because it's so much data. I mean, sure, you could take it, and I will show you this, and redirect it to a file, and then grep it, cat it, and grep it out what you want and all that stuff, or investigate it further. But this is more just to kind of get an idea of what is going on in this target machine. What is it looking like? Is there no traffic? Is there a lot of traffic? Is there some traffic that you wouldn't expect to see? And yada yada yada. So that said, let's move on and show you what else you can do with this. So I'm going to clean this up. I'm actually going to exit out of there. And the next one I want to show you is going to be, we're going to again do tcpdump, and I'm going to do ETH0 again. Again, you could do whatever you want, but this time we're going to add on port. And this is going to tell it only look for traffic on this port. And I'll start with, we'll go with SSH, right? So we're going to start it up. We shouldn't see anything because there shouldn't be anyone using SSH on this machine other than myself. So I'm going to split the screen here. Actually, let's split the screen. I don't know which is easier for you to watch, actually. Maybe you could throw it in the comments. And I'll try it this way. So now if I SSH over to scanme.nmap.org, which is an actual website put up by the people that created Nmap, great tool if you haven't heard of it. I would check out my video on it. It's awesome. It's actually a site they put up that they allow you to go scan, not using Nmap, using whatever you want to go out and play with. It's great. If you browse to it, it'll even show you the description of the site and how they expect you to do it. So it's legal. Go out there and use it, I suggest. So anyway, back to the goal here. We're going to now do an SSH over to this domain here and see if it shows up in our capture over here on the left. So we do it and it immediately shows up. There you go, domain name. And if we even make this bigger, you get even more information. So this is actually going to be my machine, and here's what it's going to be connecting from. So it now shows you that there's SSH traffic going through here. So now let's go back over here and let's kill this. And now if we were to ping, let's say we ping again, it's not showing up because we're not looking for that. Now, let's say we wanted to, here, I'll give you a little quiz here. What if we wanted to change this to 53? How many of you know what port that is? And I'll give you a hint by what I'm going to do here. So let's say we did an nslookup on google.com, right? That's showing up here. And you know why that's showing up is because port 53 is DNS. And nslookup, which we actually will cover in a little bit here, is a tool that looks up records. It's the same thing as like not ipconfig. As nslookup, I guess. I guess it's the same on Windows. I'm thinking about it, isn't it? It's similar to dig is what I was thinking, but it's a tool that goes out and gets the records for you. Here I'm going down the rabbit hole. So that is another way you could use it. All right, and another way we can do this, we'll just go up here. We could change this to port 80, and this is going to tell it to look for HTTP traffic, non-encrypted web traffic. And I'm actually going to change this over here to any, just so you can see that it would pick up any. And this is really useful, you know, not just for pen testing. Let's say you're just a system administrator, you're checking your network out, and you go, I wonder, nothing should be going out unencrypted, right? So you could just run this, you know, and see what's going out unencrypted. And then you could try to trace it back and see what devices it were and, you know, make sure you get it set up so it's running through the proper ports to keep it encrypted. So we're going to run this, and then we're going to throw a -A on the end. So we're looking for web traffic, but the -A on the end is going to tell it to try to format in an ASCII format. So we could actually hopefully read some of the results from the website that are being viewed unencrypted. So if we go over here and I do a curl, which is a way to look at websites via the command line, really useful if you want to pull some information off of a site from the command line. But for this, I'm just going to go ahead and do this, and we should get some results. Well, we would have if I would have hit enter. Let's try that again, shall we? Go ahead and hit curl, and as you can see, we'll get a lot of results in a format, as you can see, that you could almost, I mean, obviously you need to tweak some things, but you could cut and paste this into a file, and you could almost copy the way that the actual website scanme.mmap.org looked, because you're getting all the tags, everything in the whole document comes down from curl, and tcpdump just captured it because of that -A and port 80 we're looking for. Now, let's say over here, we, over here, we do a different website, like, let's just say we put an HTTPS on the end of this. We go back here, nothing over on the left because there is no such thing as a secure HTTPS, I should say, scanme.mmap.org. So, but what if we do like curl, and we do for.com? See, that does show up because it's going to redirect us likely to for.com. But what if we do, see, we're getting a result over here, but we're not getting anything over here because we told it not to. So that's where it's useful. We could also come over here, and you could change this to 443, right? Now you're SSL, but this should encrypt it when we go to do it. So let's say we go over here, do the same thing, and if we scroll up, excuse me, you can see it's all encrypted. You're not getting the tags and HTML body and all that great stuff. So that is how you would use that. And let me clean this up. All right, and the next tool I want to show you how to use is known as nslookup. nslookup is a tool that queries DNS, domain name system information, about a specific domain. There are other tools that do this as well, and some of them do a better job than nslookup. But the reason I'm showing you nslookup before I show you those other tools is that nslookup is more widely available than those other tools. It's almost certainly going to be found on every Linux operating system, almost certainly going to be found on every Windows operating system, and Mac for that matter. So it's going to be similar to tcpdump, where you're like, well, I could just use Wireshark. Well, guess what? Wireshark is not natively installed on all those OSs. tcpdump and nslookup is. So that's why I'm going to show you it. And there's two ways to use nslookup. You can simply type in nslookup and then type in, nmap.org and get all these records returned to you. But I'm going to show you how to use it interactively because that's where I get the most benefit from it. So to use this interactively, we're going to do nslookup and enter kind of an interactive shell, if you will, where we can input multiple. We can do, if I can type for.com, then we could be like google.com, and we're going to get all the DNS information for all these different domains, right? But what's really powerful about this mode, and you can do this the other way, it's just you have to retype it every single time you want to put in a different domain, is I can say, all right, I want to look up, I cannot type. I want to look up, just speaking of type, name server records, right? So I'm going to do set type equals ns for name server. And then I'm going to type in nmap and go ahead and hit enter. And there are the name servers for it, right? I go out and I want Google. I get Google, right? I want Ford. I get Ford. I don't know why I choose these three. They're just on top of my head. What if I wanted a text record? Okay, right? Set type equals txt. And then let's just do disney.com for that. Boom, there you go, all their text records. Or you wanted their MX records. Again, set type equals, what was I going to do here? MX. And then we look up gmac.com. How about that? There you go. You get their MX records. Or again, you could do Google and get their SMTP. There you go. All right, so that is how you could use this in interactive mode. And one last thing I'll show you before we move on to the next command. You can actually, and this is pretty cool for internal name servers. I'm going to use it as an external name server, but imagine this was an external name server. You can actually tell it server, and then you could pick your internal DNS server, right? And then you could query internal domain names to make sure you're getting the correct records from your internal server. So if I do google.com, you know, it's going to give me, it's still doing MX records. So you'd want to change the type to whatever type you wanted to look, or just general A records. But again, you could then do server equals, I don't know, what is it? 1.1, what is it? 8.8.4.4 or something like that. And then if you were to look up, you know, Ford.com, you'd get that domain server looking up those records for you, that DNS server, I should say. So pretty powerful stuff, has many uses, and it's native to almost every operating system I've ever been on. So that's cool. Let's move on to the next one. All right, and sticking with querying DNS information, the next tool I want to go over is called dig, or is dig. As it sounds, dig a hole. And dig is one of those tools I mentioned while we were discussing nslookup that I consider to be superior to nslookup. nslookup, remember, is used quickly in interactive mode to, you know, let's say you had a split screen here and you wanted to just constantly look up Google or whatever the domain, you know, whoops, you got to put a .com at the end of that bad boy. So that's where it shines. But other than that, dig is superior in almost every way when you're querying domain DNS records. And let me just give you a few examples. Well, before I said why is it superior, just off the top of my head, you can use dig in scripts way easier than you can in nslookup. You can actually, and I'll show you, there's flags you can do in dig that will cut out all the crap you'd have to parse out if you tried to use nslookup. Dig does give you a more detailed response if you do want it. In fact, you can actually trace the whole hierarchy of a DNS record. And the fact that it's actively maintained makes it superior, in my opinion, where nslookup isn't actively maintained like dig is. So let's get into it. Let's dig into dig. So what we can do is we can just do a simple, dig in the domain name, and you get the A records, right? Pretty cool. You can do the same thing. Let's say you wanted to do MX record, similar to like you can do with nslookup, but you just do it this way. Now let's say this is where it can get nice for scripting. If you do a dig and you do a plus short, let's say we do google.com, you're just going to get the IP addresses. You're not going to get all the junk you don't want, right? So that's where it would be really helpful in a script. Or let's say you wanted the opposite of that and you wanted to trace the entire hierarchy of the record. You could do a dig plus trace, and we'll do google.com, right? And you're going to go through here, you go all the way up here, and you're actually going to start off with the root servers. And if you don't know much about DNS, I do plan to put out a video on it, just because I think we're going into some of these topics where it would be beneficial for all of you that are following along with all my videos to get a better understanding of DNS if you don't clearly understand it. But what we're looking at briefly, and again, this is 5,000 foot view, you're looking at the root servers. There's only so many root servers that are kind of like top level servers on the internet, and these are going to be them. After that, you're going to have your TLD servers, or generic TLD servers, which are kind of your .coms, your .edu, to your .govs, right? These are going to be your second level servers. And then you're going to get into the actual name servers, which is going to be Google's own name servers, right? And then finally, you're going to get the records, which is going to be the A records that these responded or replied with. So it would kind of go like, this is the final output. These records down here came from here. And then as you went up, these records return this result, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of cool that you can actually go through and do that. And again, I'll go into why you would want to do that in the future. But there are many ways or reasons to do that. Let's say you wanted to do similar where you could do server in nslookup and tell it what server you want to do. You can do the same thing here. You would just do put in the server you want to use, and then you could use, you'd be using 888 to get the responses. Again, you could do this for Cloudflare, whatever other services you wanted. Cool thing is you can also do a reverse PTR lookup. So you could do a dig-x and you could look up, that, and you would get the reverse. So it actually would tell you 8.8.8.8 is dns.google, right? And then again, you could do, if you wanted to look up like a name server, you could do, and it gives you Google's name servers. So I think that's pretty powerful. Dig's a great command to know. And again, it's something we could almost spend a whole video on dig, but I just wanted to kind of give you an overview of it. Play around with it. You kind of know the main commands you're going to want to know to use it, but it's very useful. So that said, let's move on to the next one. All right, and the last tool under the realm of DNS lookups and domain lookups and things like that is just going to be your simple whois, right? You may have used this before on the internet. Like, let's say you wanted to know who owned a domain, or you wanted to see if a domain was available. You could just go and type in Google, like whois google.com, right? And it would return similar results to this, just in the HTML format on a web page. But the cool thing with this is you can actually use this, and then you can throw it, into a script. You could grep it. And back in the day, you used to be able to get a lot of useful information. The reason you'd still want to do this is, let's say you're performing a pen test, you want to make sure your client is protected and that they don't have all their contact information and their emails for their admins or their technical contacts available in their whois record. This should all be hidden behind, I should say, like a private, I forget the exact name, like a private DNS or proxy DNS lookup, where they actually hide all of that information. And then they give you the proxy DNS, let's say their information for their company, and you can contact them and get told that they're not going to give you their information on that actual client. But you can still get some useful information. Like you can see when the record was created. You can see Google was created in 1997. So you can see the company been around a long time. It hasn't, but there are places out there on the internet that where you could still, believe it or not, you can still get some information. I don't know if it's useful or not, but let's say rotten.com, right? And then you just grep like email. And then, you do get information occasionally that's returned, right? Or you could do it for, I don't know, let's do nmap.org. Okay, and see, they're actually protected where Rotten wasn't. So I don't know if this is a legitimate email or not, but if it was and you're doing a pen test, you could notify them that, hey, you have your information out there. That's a no-no. You should put this behind a private proxy DNS lookup service or whatever it's called. But the point being, you could still look this up for a client, or if this was a client and they did have this and you're doing a pen test, you could then take it a step further, simulate a phishing test, send them a phishing email, see if they fall for it. That could go in a report, or you could take it a step further. And if you're trying to gain entry to their system, see if that's a way to get in, right? So I just thought I'd mention it. Not super, super useful, but something you should still have in your arsenal of tools when you're, performing a pen test or just checking your own domain to make sure you're protected. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, everyone. And the next tool I want to show you is known as curl. Like I want to curl up in a ball when I hear there's a new patch for a server that I just finished patching, because that sucks. But you know what doesn't suck, excuse me, is curl. Curl is awesome. And what is curl? Curl is, think of it as a web browser in your terminal. No, really. And what it does is it will go out, and I'll show you what it does, because that's kind of the easiest way to do it. But it will go out and it will fetch all the information that a browser would render for you and make look pretty, but it actually fetches it and returns it to you in your web or in your terminal. And what you can do from it here, you could redirect it into a file, you could grep it, you could put it in a program or a script, whatever. So it's super powerful, right? Now you can see this returned everything. This is a little overwhelming, but let's say we're doing recon, right? And we want to know what kind of web server a client is running. Sure, no problem. All we're going to do is add a -i here. And boom, we get it. We get a response code here, which is healthy. We get the web server version. We get it's running Apache. We get the release here, and we even get the Linux distro it's running on, right? Pretty cool. Simple. Again, I'll show you a couple more. I'm not going to go into this too in depth because this literally could be an entire video, which maybe it will be in the future. But for right now, let's say you wanted to get everything that it had to offer, starting with the connection and everything. So what we'll do is we'll do a -v. We're going to go ahead and hit enter, go up to the top here. And you can see right here when we started, you can actually see, well, you don't see completely the like acknowledgement and everything, but you can see the handshake at a higher level here. So it's trying to connect. You know, it did the, it translated to an IP address, connects over port 80 because we told it, well, actually, the main reason it did it because there's no HTTPS on this website by design. But then you can see it connects. It tells you it connected. And then all the little arrows that are facing this way is us sending information to the server, right? And then when they flip and they go this way, this is actually the server returning all the information. So you can see what we sent, what was returned, our connection, and you can kind of, you know, look through it and see if there's anything that just at a glance was useful. Not the greatest way to use it, but it mostly be used. You want to get that version of the web server real quick, right? Or you want to pipe it into a file so you can clean it out. But let's say you don't want to pipe in a file and you just wanted to quickly get a response. What you can do is you can just do this. And what we can do is we can just grep it, right? And we're going to do this and we're going to look for, I don't know, scan, right? So you do this and now you're getting the results that it returned that just have the word or part of the word scan in it. So you go here, you can see the title. Go ahead and scan me, right? I told you that's what this website is built for. And you can go through here and you can see whatever. This would be useful. Let's say you're looking for an email address. Nothing really there. And if you didn't want to see this little bar here, which is kind of obnoxious, just put an S right there, then you don't see it, right? Because depending on how much you were searching, it would kind of give you a progress bar, but what we're searching for is so small. It's just kind of more annoying to me to see that. But anyways, you keep it there if it makes you happy. But yeah, you could search for whatever. I don't know what else to search for. Let's search for vuln. And you can see it returns that. So those are 3 quick uses for curl. It's super useful. Again, I could go on forever about it. I just wanted to make you aware of the command. It is there. I would use it. And again, I might put out a video in the future on all the other stuff it can do. Because honestly, it's super powerful for pen testing, super powerful for a lot of things in ethical hacking. So that's that. Let's move on. All right, we're going to shift gears here. We're going to go a little bit into, let's say, file and directory management. What I want to show you is a tool that you use to link files. And technically, it can be used to link files or directories depending on the type of link. And that's critical to remember. In Linux, unlike Windows, there are 2 types of links. There's a hard link and a symbolic link. All the Windows users that are on this watching this video, you can think of a symbolic link as pretty similar to a shortcut. You know, right click, create shortcut, send to desktop, yada, yada, yada. Similar, but not exact, okay? Which we'll cover. Now, a hard link is it's a link between 2 files. Technically, it can be a directory too, but very rarely, mostly 2 files. But when you link these 2 files, let's say file 1 and file 2, they're an exact copy of each other. Meaning if I link a file that is located in the root, and then I put a link to a folder, or a file, I should say, 4 folders down, regardless if I edit it at the root or 4 folders down, it's going to have the same content in both of them. You delete one, the other one still exists. Where a symbolic link, you delete it, you delete the file that symbolic link was pointing to, it's toast, it's gone. It'd be like deleting a shortcut in Windows, right? You can't see it. So that's a big difference. Another big difference is that hard links, again, usually 99.9% are not used to link directories, whereas symbolic link can be. And then the last thing I'll say, a hard link can't cross system boundaries, meaning you can't have you can't mount another server and then link across it, where a symbolic link you can, which is actually super useful because you can actually create a symbolic link to another share on another server. But as far as Linux knows, it's on the same server. You can't do that with a hard link though. So enough chit chat. Why don't I just show you how they work? All right. So ln is how you're going to hard link a file. It's just the command and then whatever you want to link, right? Now, if you want to make a symbolic link, you're going to do a -s. And I'll show you how to use this in a second. And if you wanted to force it, meaning you wanted to override the link, you would add a -f. So we'll do that right now. Let's start with just a hard link. And to do that, I don't think I have any files in here, unfortunately. So let's just say, let's echo, what did we say? Hello, YouTube. How about that, right? And let's put that in youtube.txt. Okay, that sounds good to me, right? We got our file there. Cool. So we can cat yt. What am I doing wrong here, people? Oh, I can't spell. I swear to God, I looked at that and I'm like, what is wrong here? And I was wondering why when I hit tab, it didn't autofill, but my brain must not be working. All right, so anyways, there we go. We got the file there. We're cool, right? All right, awesome. So what we can do now is we can do an ln. We can do an ln again, and we can do a yt here. So we're linking it, right? And now we can just call it YouTube, right? Now we have two files here. If you look at them, I don't know how I did two R's there. If you look at them, they're exactly the same. They're both 14, and they both have the same permissions, all that great stuff, right? Cool. Now let's just to make sure I'm not lying to you, right? Let's do cat YouTube and YT, right? Okay, so they're both identical. Hello, YouTube. All right, we can now go into, let's go into YouTube here. So, all right, so we'll add, please like and subscribe, because you know that's what good viewers do. So then what we'll do here is we'll go here, clean it up, right? And now we can do, let's do our cat command on on ut.text. Boom. So you can see it updated both, right? Cool. So now we know that's working. So that's how you're going to hard link. And again, this has to be on the same file system. If you mount like a Windows volume on here, let's say you're doing a backup, you're using the Linux server to do the backup, you mounted a Windows volume, it's not going to work with a hard link, but you can use a symbolic link, which I'll show you now. All right, before we do a symbolic link, let's see what we can actually link to. Not much in here that's cool. Let's do a one. Okay, so there's some cool stuff in there. We could go to jail if we wanted. But what we'll do is we'll actually link to that password1 file here, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do an ln-s, right? And then we're going to tell it where to go, which is adv1. And it would be, and what we'll do is we'll just call this password, right? So now we have a link. We do this. We can see it's actually here. It's pointing here, right? Cool. So what do we? What happens if we do a cat on? Okay. So that's showing us what's in that file in the other directory. But can we verify that by going into it? You say? Sure. Same file, right? Cool. Now what happens if we do? And then I delete. And then I go up a directory and I look at that link we created. It's red. It's unhappy. You know why it's unhappy? Because it's gone. What happens if we do no such file or directory, right? It's gone because we deleted it. So unlike a hard link where you can, no, I don't want to do that. Clean that up for you guys. Unlike a hard link where if I were to, so we know that, and we know those are the same, right? Because we just hard linked them. I can delete. I can delete YouTube. YT's still there. And if I do it, you can see it's still there. So that's one of the major differences. Their hard links are independent. They're independent, but they're also the same, which is crazy, right? And they can't be used across file systems, where the symbolic link, you could technically, let's say you have a Windows machine you need to back up, but you don't have any way to do it easily, but you have a Linux server that you do back up with, let's say you're old school and you have a tape drive, right? Anyway, you could mount the Windows volume on the Linux machine, create a symbolic link to, say, the C drive or the data drive, whatever you're looking for, to the Windows machine, link it in. Now that it's linked, I should say, add it to your backup to, back up that directory. And the backup software, Linux, no one would know the difference. It would back it up, and now you'd have a backup of both. So that's one of the super useful ways it can be used, but there's endless possibilities for this. You can use it to scripts. You can use it lots of cool stuff. So anyway, those are the two different versions of links and how you could use them. All right, and the next command is going to be xargs, like xarg matey. And what is xarg, you say? Well, it's a command that converts input into command arguments. And why is this necessary? Well, some commands output lists, like file names or whatever directory names, right? But other commands need those items as arguments. Think rm. It would need to know what you wanted to delete, right? What xarg does, it takes the input from a pipe or whatever. Let's say you're going to do a find command, and then you're going to pipe it, and then you're going to use xarg and redirect it into that rm command. So you'd find all of it. It would create the list in the background. You wouldn't see the list necessarily. There's a flag you can do to see the list, but normally you wouldn't need that. And then it's going to pipe it into xargs, and xarg is going to call that other command. So what it's going to do is, why don't I just show you? Maybe it will be a little bit easier. But think of it kind of as taking the input from the first command and then taking that input and using that as the argument for the second command. Hopefully I said that correctly. So let me show you what it does. And to do this, first off, I made a couple little scripts here to make my life easier here. Let me show you what we're going to do. So make text is literally just going to create some text files and a directory and some more text files, right? So let's do make text. Now we have some text files. And if you look in text 2, not 23, there's some text files in there, right? Cool. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use find, which is this typical find command, and you've all done this before, right? Or if you haven't, you should check out my other video because it will explain how to use it. And we're going to look for anything with a text extension. You could change this to PDF, Word docs, whatever. Let's say you wanted to clean out a bunch of crap your employees or your users have in certain directories, right? This is how you could do it. So now doing that, and if we were to do it right here, it's going to give us a listing of all the text files in the current directory and the subdirectory we're in, right? So we have those here. That's great, but that doesn't get rid of them. That just gives us the list we're in, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to pipe this. And what we're going to do is we're going to then call xargs. And then we're going to say rm. So it's going to say, find all of these, pipe them. Xarg is going to say, and once you find all of them, run rm on all of them, right? And how many of you think this will work? You go ahead and do it. And look, there's none left, all right? But what about inside here? It still eats them out of there too, right? Because it took the find command, which did, and you saw the results I showed you at the beginning, it actually went down a lower level and found all of them in there too, right? So boom, takes them out of there. That's all happy, but what else can you do with it? Well, let me show you. And before we do, let's get out of here. And then let's rf txt2. All right, now we're clean. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do make, actually, let me show you, make.sh. So what it's going to do is it's going to create a bunch of files that are going to tell you, please like and subscribe. Thanks. That's right, because that's what, again, good viewers do. So let's go ahead and run that. And then if we do it, boom. Okay, so we're going to have a bunch of files in here, right? So now what we're going to do, let's run the command again. Let's just do find, and let's do name, and let's do, I have to look at my keyboard. It's too early for me. And then we're going to go xargs. And then what we'll do is we're going to tell it to find these names, but then we want it, now that it's going to find anything with a .sh, but then we're going to want it to run an ls on it so we can see, you know, what we want it to see. We want to see everything we just saw here, right? So let's go ahead and run that, and then let's redirect it to ls.txt, right? So there we go. And now if we do a cat ls.txt, it shows you exactly what we saw here. That isn't, I'm going to act like I meant to do that because that's actually not very impressive here. So let's do that again. Oop. But let's add LTR because that's going to be cooler, right? That's going to be cooler, right? All right, so then let's go here and do LTR. And that actually shows you what I wanted to show you. So it's going to show you all the permissions over here. It's going to show you owner group, when it was modified or created and all that junk. So that's pretty neat, right? Let's say you wanted to find everything in multiple directories under, I don't know, you had a users folder and you wanted to know what's this guy been doing, you know, including hidden files. You could run that on that directory and it would return it. So that is how you use xarg. You can use it many different ways. And again, this is similar to curl in that there's a lot of ways you can use this to combine two things you're doing and get better results. So hope that helps. Let's move on to the next one. All right, and the next command I want to show you is known as lsof. And I'm just kidding. I don't know if it's actually called lsof, or maybe someone does call it lsof. We're going to call it lsof. It could be lsof. But anyways, lsof, what is it and what does it do? What it does is it shows you which files are currently open and which processes are using them and who is using them. Why is that useful, you say? Well, in Linux, everything's a file, right? Regular files, network connection, devices, etc., all files. And lsof shows you what is actively being used and by who. So let me give you a quick couple commands with some flags that will actually be useful to you, because there's a lot of stuff that's not so useful. But let me show you what you're going to want to know. And the first one is going to be ls with a -i. And then we're going to put a colon here. And then we're going to put the port. And I'm going to say we want port 443. Do that, we get no returns because I don't have anything open using 443. So let me dial up my modem here. And then we'll get it open and we'll go over to AOL.com. We'll get in a chat room like the olden days. And here we are. All right, so now we are online. And if we go over here, we're good. You can see, boom, all this junk, right? You can see what protocol we're using. You can see, we can see the user. And why is it showing this? Because I'm actually that user. I was just SU'd over to root because that's what I do. And then I was running shell here because I like the colors for you guys. Anyways, so that's what it would do. Again, there's all the pretty stuff. So you can see it's running. And again, you can go through here. You can see what version of IP it's running. You see the user. You see the process over here. You see the process identifier number. Let's say you wanted to kill some of it. So it's pretty helpful, right? That's cool. Now let's say we close this guy down over here. Goodbye. You've got mail no more. All right, so it's gone. Move over here. Nothing else is showing, right? So we know it's working. But what else can you do with it, you say? Well, what if we wanted to know if anyone was using SSH, right? Nope, don't think so. But actually, I don't have to minimize that because we're so cool. We can just do this. And we can go over here and do SSH, and we'll go to scanme.nmap.org. We go over here, run this command again, and boom, shows me over here that someone is using SSH. And, okay, that just wraps it. I'm wondering why it's not showing me. Let's try this again here. Oh, wait, it is. I'm just blind. So let's make this bigger, and if I can see it a little easier. There you go. Okay, I'm just losing my mind. Okay, so that's pretty cool, right? You can see, and then again, we kill out of it. We do it again. No one's using it. So, but now, so that's how it could show you, who's using certain programs and on what ports and all that. But what about files? You want to know who had open files, right? That's pretty useful. Well, let's take a look here. Let's get out of here, clean this up. And who's more useful to show us an example of open files than the dude, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do lsof, and we're going to go, I got ahead of myself, plus D here for the dude. Just made that up as well, but it sounds good. And we'll go to his home directory, which the dude has his own home directory, right? So right now, there's nothing going on there. Okay, the dude is not very entertaining right now. But if we go over here, and we do SU the dude. Okay, I do not know what I'm doing here, guys. And we switch over here to the dude. Clear it out. The dude's here. PWD. Okay, he's in his directory. The dude. All right, so now the dude is in his home directory, right? Let's say the dude wants to, what does he have? Anything in here? Nothing. He is a born dude. So he's going to do nano new file. It's going to open it up. All right, cool. So now we go over here. We go here and we can see what's going on here. Oh, look, the dude has a shell open, right? And he also has a file open. He's using nano. He hasn't saved it yet. I don't know if it will actually show you the name of the file. Let's check that out. Honestly, let's see. So what if we were to do test, and we, because it doesn't have a name yet, and let's just name it, does this work? Yes. Okay. So now he has a file there. So let's now do nano. It's really going to make me put it in quotes. That's annoying as all hell, isn't it? That's Linux for you. All right, so let's go over there and let's try it again and see what it looks like. So no, it does not look like it shows you the file name, which is interesting, but it shows you what process is open. I'm wondering if there's actually a way to see the name. Anyway, on my next video, I'll look into that for you, but you can actually see he's using the process of he's using nano, and you could actually, if you want to do, you could kill it, right? Sorry, dude. We're going to copy that right here, and we're just going to go ahead and paste it there. And if we go back over to the dude, you can see he got killed. Sorry, buddy. So let's get out of the dude because we don't want to keep that open. So you're good there. You could also say, let's clear this out. Let's just say you wanted to know what was running in something like the bin directory, right? Lots of stuff is running in the bin directory. So you can see many uses to see, what files are open, their process identifier numbers, what users have their certain things open, and all that great stuff. So that is what lsof does for you. Let's move on to the next one. All right, the next tool I want to show you is known as ncdu. And what is this? This is pretty much a graphical version of the du command. It's not critical to your existence, but it's pretty nice to have if you're sick of trying to, convert how many megabytes into gigabytes when you're looking at something in Linux. This will give you a much quicker at-a-glance view of something. But I will warn you, it's usually not installed by default. So if you need to install it, when you go to run that command, if it just errors out on you and says, do you want to install it? You can do yes if you want, but first what I would do is I would do sudo, if you're not root like I am, apt update, run the updates, and then I would install it. So I do sudo apt install ncdu and run the installer, and then you'll have it. Now, how is this helpful, you say? Well, like I said, it's helpful when you don't want to try to do translations of size, but you can also just let's say you just want to know ncdu what your var log total size is, right? Boom, you do it real quick, and at a glance, you're getting it right down here. But then you're also getting down, you can also get a breakdown of what inside that directory is taking the most space, and you get it real quick, just like that. But there's a lot more you can do with it. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because du can do all of this as well. It's just it takes a lot more commands. But real quick, I did want to show you, if you hit the question mark, it will actually give you a little cheat sheet with all the things you can do. I mean, you can delete from here. You can sort alphabetically, by size, by the modified time. You can delete directories. So you can do a lot of stuff in here. To get out, you just quit. So that's ncdu. Not much else to say there. If you like to look at, a little more graphical user interfaces when you're doing things like dealing with space, kind of like tree size in Windows, this is pretty much the equivalent, probably where tree size ripped it off from. All right, next tool. All right, the next command is similar to du and the other ncdu, but this one just shows you your total disk free, and the df, disk free, I actually had to look that up because I was like, what the hell does df stand for again? But it's disk free. Trust me, I just verified it, but you should trust but verify too. So if you just do a df, it's going to show you what is free on all of your volumes here, right? And that's great, but again, like where ncdu does the translations or the conversion to tell you like megabytes into gigabytes and vice versa, you can do something similar with df if you do df and you do h. And that's going to be human readable, which is much easier to read, right, than what you have up here. Now, let's say you wanted to know because you're crazy, right? There's no other reason you'd want to know this. You could do it in kilobytes, which is, I believe, it looks like it was the standard. Okay, so yeah, let's say we wanted it in megabytes. You got it in megabytes right there. But if you just do it H, it thinks you're a human, and it's going to do it in gigabytes, because that's what everyone else. I don't know if terabytes works. What do you think? No, it denied us. Petabytes? Nope. denied twice. Stick with df-h to get how much space you have. So when you know your employees or you're on a system and you wonder why you're not able to copy a file or save it, go, damn, am I out of space? And you go, nope, it's not that. And then you have to go find something else. All right, on to the next command. All right, the next command I want to show you is known as chattr. And what is chattr? Chattr is a way in Linux to set special file attributes that control how a file behaves beyond normal permissions. Think in Windows, hidden files, archive, read-only, things of that nature. So it's like that, only it's on steroids because it's on Linux, which is superior. So of course it's better. Now, how to use chattr? It's not chattr, it's chattr, because this is Linux. And then you would just put in your flag. So if you type it right here, you can see there are a lot of options. You can do a plus or a minus, which is similar how you would set permissions, right? Or equals. And then all these other options right here. But I'm not going to go into all these. I'm just going to show you two right now because I don't have all the time in the world. And you can look these up on your own now that you are aware of the command. So let's do one. Let's see what we have in here. All right. So right now, oh, I should show you real quickly. If you ever want to know what current attributes are set, you call in the wingman to chattr, which is lsattr, or list attributes, I guess. You do that, you can see right now there's really nothing except for this E, and that stands for extent, which as far as I could tell meant that you are using the ext4 or ext3, if you're really old school ext2 file system. So you can pretty much ignore that unless it's important to you, then don't ignore it. But for the rest of us who don't care, we're going to ignore it. So right now there's no special attribute set on any of these files, is guess what I'm saying. So let's set one. Let's set the coolest one out of all of them, I think, which is chattr plus I, which means immutable, and we're going to do it to test. Now, what does that mean, you say? That means you can't do anything to this. So let's say I want to get rid of it, right? Can't get rid of it. Can't get rid of it. And here comes a fire truck. Can't do that. Let's say we wanted to throw in the big boy here, and we're going to do -F. Doesn't care, right? Doesn't care. I can't even move it. Can't do anything to it. Can I open it? That's a good, or can I cat it? Yes. Can do that. So you can edit it, or you can edit it, and you don't believe me? Let's go in here. And then let's do, it won't even let me. It just tells me right away. I was going to, try to do it and then save it. It won't even let me do that. Can't even do that, right? Thought I was in VI for a minute there. All right, so you can't do anything with that. Now, how do you get rid of it? You would do chattr, and you would just do a -I. And now if I do rm test, it's gone, right? Cool. Now for this, let's do touch log file. All right, now we have a log file here. Let's say we want a file that we can't delete, but we want it to be able to be editable. We want it to be appendable. This is important, right? We want to be able to write to it. So we do chattr, you guessed it, plus a log file. All right, so I can't delete log file. Even as root, the big boy root, I can't do it. Can't move it, can't do anything. Can't do anything to it. But I can append to it. Now, I know that because I can do, let's say I want to do ls etc into, two of them to append, into log file. It'll let me do it, or did it? Let's cat log. It did. Now here's a perfect way. Let's say we try to overwrite it because we're only going to put one little arrow there. Denied, can't do it. That is how you do it. And again, remember you can do lsattr, and I can see that that file is only appendable. So super useful tool. You want to lock down a file, make sure you never go oopsie. Very similar to Azure technology where they put locks on certain things and you have to go in and manually unlock them. It's just kind of like an oopsie get out of jail free card when you accidentally screw something up, or you're lazy like me and you, instead of typing things that you put in asterisks when you shouldn't put an asterisk, and you do a little bit more than you want. You're a little too aggressive. So anyway, on to the next tool. All right, the next tool I want to show you, we're actually getting near the end of the video, so I kept a couple good ones for the end, is known as strace. And strace will need to be installed. As far as I'm aware, it's not pre-installed in any of them. And to install it, you're going to do apt install strace, just like that. I already have it, so I don't need it. But what is strace? It's actually a super powerful tool. And again, like everything else I've said, this would take this would probably take more than all the other things I've said would take a lot of time to explain, put together. But what it is it's a very powerful tool that allows you to gain deep insights into system behavior between a program and the actual system, like down to the kernel level. I'm not going to go that deep into it. I just want to give you a quick, cool demonstration on what it can do. But let me go ahead and show you that real quick. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to need to open up a web browser here. All right, we need to have something open there. Which is fine because you're going to need to know the process ID number of the program, or you would need to know a file and whatever. But for this example, I'm going to use Firefox, and we're going to try to figure out what they're doing on Firefox. So to do that, we're going to run a systrace. Well, actually, back up. First, we need to know that processor, and then we need to know that PID. So we're going to do IAS, and we're going to grep Firefox. And we're going to get a million results, but we're looking for the top one right here. So we want this guy right here. Okay, so we're going to copy that. All right, now that we have that, we can go ahead and start a system trace. And what we can do is we can put a .p here, and we can go ahead and do paste because we know the process ID, right? And then we can redirect it to wherever we want. I'm just going to put it right here and do ff.log, right? Okay, so now we're attached to that process. So now we have our, and this could be anyone on the system, right? We want to know what they're doing because we think they've been up to something suspect, right? So they're over at Hack This Site because they're hackers, evil hackers hacking the world, right? So they're on Hack This Site, all right? Or maybe they went over to Kali, right? We're like, what are they doing? Or maybe they're just crazy and they're going over to Google, you know, like a normal user, right? All right, cool. So they've done that, they're done, they get off, and they don't know any different. They didn't see anything, either did we, right? So we're done, we kill the process. Again, you could throw this in the background if you wanted and just leave it running. There's a lot you can do it. I'm just giving you a quick example without going too deep down the rabbit hole, because this might be a future video for you to check out. So if we look at it, now we have Firefox, right? And if we do a quick ff.log, oh my God, you're like, well, that's super helpful. Thanks, buddy. But it is because we can use our buddy grep, right? And we can look for HTTP, not HTTP, HTTP, right? And this is now going to show us where they've been going, right? It takes a little searching through, but you can see right here, Kali.org, right? Google. So you could then take this and refine your search and find even more detailed information on where they've been going, or what files they've been opening, or if they've been running, like if they have a shell open and they've been running commands. Think of it almost as like a packet sniffer for their the process you're looking at. And again, this is super cool. You could do a lot more with it than I'm showing you. I just wanted to give you a quick overview of that, what is available, but more to follow in future on that. All right, and the last command I want to show you, I hope you're watching, is going to be watch. I do have other commands I want to show you, but we'll save that maybe for part 3 or some shorts or something. We'll figure it out. It's not important. You don't need it right now. But this is what is important. So watch. Watch is the command. Watch is the command. What does watch do? Watch wants you to watch the screen because what it does is it runs a command over and over again so you can look at differences. So normally you would probably do up arrow over and over when you want to see differences, right? This does that for you kind of, and it will display differences. And you can use different flags to set different things, like you wanted to see like a size increase or the name of a file or whatever you want to do. I'm going to give you a few examples, but it can do a lot. So watch. First thing I want to show you is how you can look for change in, let's say, disk usage. What you could do is you could use df. And first you do d for differences, right? And then you put the command df, and we're going to put it in k for kilobytes because I don't have a lot of big files on here, and it would take a lot of data to actually be able to show you that anything's changing. So I'm going to do that here. And you can see all the volumes right here. I'm going to go over here, and right here, I'm going to go up, and right here, we're going to look for this right here, but it will actually highlight for you, which is really cool. So I'm going to copy gel. Don't go to gel, but I'm going to copy gel right here, and I'm going to put a gel 1. And if you wait, you'll see a little highlight right here. Boom, it just went up. If we do it again and we create a gel 2, same thing. Now, what if we do the opposite and we delete gel 1 and gel 2? Same thing if it's going down. So that's how you could sit in there. Let's say you're watching a directory that should never change, and all of it, you know, you have something going on here, and all of a sudden that that flashes in front of you while you're actively watching it. You know, you'd go like, okay, something is actually changing in that directory. It shouldn't be doing it all the time, right? I mean, yes, you could manually do it, but this is cooler. So that's one way you could do it, right? Another way you could do it, let's say you wanted to know not only the size was changing, I want to know what's happened inside that folder. So we could use, instead of df, we could use ls, right? Why not? So we do watch, we're going to do -n, and up here d was differences, and down here we're going to do n, which pretty much just, I don't know why it's n, but it's the interval. So then you'd pick a number. Let's say we want to look at it every 5 seconds. Less than that might be obnoxious, but you know what? If that floats your boat, go for it. And then we'll do an lsltr, right? And boom. All right, so you can see in the directory we were in, which I believe was the lab Linux test, right? Let's make sure. Okay, so now we're in here. So let's say we want to touch 6, 7, 8, 9. Touch 6, 7, 8, 9. Should show up in about 5 seconds. And there they go. Now let's say we wanted to delete them all. That should show up too. Boom. So this is going to be like, let's say you had a honeypot. Let's say you were worried about ransomware. You could have this command, you know, right over here, watching this. And then what you could do is you could actually, over here, let's change this up a little. I told you earlier, if you wanted to redirect it, you'd have to run the T command. And then we could run it into test.log, right? And then over here, let's go over here again, and let's just do our touch 6, 7, 8, 9. And then let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. And then let's go over here and kill it. And then if we do cat test.log, you could see the changes that were made. I must have shut it off too quick before we did the 1, 2, 3, 4. I didn't give it the 5 seconds to wait, but you can see that would then log those changes for you. So that's pretty cool. And with that, we are actually gonna say goodbye today for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. More to come. Sorry, I haven't been doing a lot of videos lately. I've had a lot of things in life that haven't given me the opportunity to do it. Hopefully that will stop now and things will be back to normal. So hope everyone has a great rest of the day, week, year, century, all that good stuff. Take care. I'll talk to you later.